What is up, 7th grade? This is lesson number 65. We're going to be talking about circumference and pi. Who doesn't like a good pie? So, before we get to talking about pi, let's remember a few things we know about circles. First off, whenever we draw a circle, we always use a center, and a circle is just all the points in a plane that are the same distance from that given center. And the distance between the center and the edge, and that's for any spot along the edge, is the radius, this red length here. And that red length would be the same anywhere I drew it in the circle, because that's by definition what it means, is the center to the edge is the same length. Now if we go from edge to edge, passing through the center, then that length is called the diameter. So from side to side, passing through the center is the diameter. And then if we go walking along the edge, get all the way back around to where we started, this green length is what we call the circumference of the circle. Now something that's really interesting that's been fascinating mathematicians and scientists for literally thousands of years is that if you measure this length across and you measure this length around and you take the ratio of those two things, you actually get the same number no matter what the circle is, no matter how big or how small. You get the same number as long as you're pretty accurate with your measurements. So I challenge you maybe tonight, after school's done, find something around your house that's round. Grab your mom's measuring tape that she uses for measuring for clothing and stuff, one of those fabric measuring tapes. Measure around the edge of that object, and then measure across it, kind of making sure you're going to the center. So kind of measure the longest length across there. Here's a couple examples of measuring, like a round basket is 94 centimeters around, and if you measure across it, it's 30 centimeters. A cup is 22 centimeters around, and across it is 7 centimeters. And whenever you take the ratio of the circumference, that's the round part, the green, to the diameter, the blue, you'll get the same number. In fact, here if you take the 94 divided by 30, you get something about 3.13. If you do the plastic cup of 22 over 7, you get something 3.14. And that number that is constant, depending on how accurate you are, you'll get a better read there. That number we call the Greek letter pi. Looks like this, little squiggly top with two lines that come down. So that's the number pi. We use a Greek letter because depending on how accurate you are, that number keeps going on for forever, doesn't ever repeat, and never stops. You can just keep getting more and more accurate, however accurate you want to be. And so, cool little thing here. So we know that the circumference divided by diameter is equal to pi. Well, since pi is a constant, is a number that doesn't change, if we want to find the circumference of something and we know the diameter, if I took this and multiplied this by d, diameter divided by diameter is just 1, so I end up with circumference is equal to pi times d, and normally use the lowercase d for diameter. So this is an equation that we can use to calculate the circumference of a circle. Now, to estimate the value of pi, we use a couple different numbers, which you may have seen before. One of them is at 3.14. Now that is not exactly pi, so this is not equal to pi, but we could say that 3.14 is approximately equal to pi. Another estimate that we use is 22/7. Again, this is approximately equal to pi. Not exact, it's just an estimate. So just remember now that the circumference is equal to pi d. If you don't have that memorized, work on memorizing that. You need to have it memorized before the quiz coming up on Friday. So let's just try a few of these here. So it says find the circumference. Those are our instructions here, find the circumference. But notice it tells us to use a couple different options. So it says here, for A, it says use 3.14 for pi, whereas B, it says use 22/7 for pi, and for C, it actually just says leave pi as pi. Just, we want the exact answer. We don't want to estimate at all, just leave the pi in there. So let's do A first off. I know that my circumference, the right pen here, the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. And looks like here my diameter is 30 inches. They also asked us to use 3.14 instead of pi. So to find the circumference, I'm going to say 3.14 times 30 inches. So a little bit of math here, 3.14 times 30 is going to be 0 times everything. Hold that place value, so 3 times 4 is 12. 3, 4. So 9420. I came over 2 decimal places, so I need to come over 2. So I'm going to say 94.2 inches is approximately our circumference, since I'm estimating for pi. Our next option here is, or B, the next thing that we asked us to do, is again find the circumference, but this time use 22/7 for pi. So again, circumference is equal to pi d. I'm going to use 22/7 for pi, and my diameter is 14 feet. You want to think of it as 14/1. I want to go ahead and reduce. I'm noticing that 7 goes into 7 one time, but 7 goes into 14 two times. So if I multiply the top, 22 times 2, or double 22, it's going to be 44. On the bottom, I have 1 times 1, so it's 44/1, which is just 44. So we'll say 44 feet. So again, the circumference is approximately equal to 44 feet because, again, I'm estimating pi. Now, before we do number 33, we need to realize something. They just gave us the radius, but in our equation up here, we have diameter. So since that radius is the same everywhere, this radius over here is also going to be 10 centimeters. So that means our diameter all the way across is going to be 10 plus 10, or 20 centimeters. Cool fact here is that diameter is equal to 2 of the radii, which is plural for radius, by the way. So since d is the same thing as 2r, another way to write this equation for circumference is pi times 2r, or a lot of times we'll write that as 2 pi r. So this equation, pi d, is the same thing as 2 pi r. So you have two different equations there for circumference. So you can use either one of those. I'll go ahead and use this new one that we came up with. circumference is going to equal to 2 times pi times r. R is at 10 centimeters. So I'm going to have 2, and I'm leaving pi in there because it says leave pi as pi. And then r is 10 centimeters. So I'm not going to approximate pi. My answer is going to have pi in it. So since it says leave pi as pi, pi is going to be in my answer. So I'll just multiply the 2 and the 10. 2 times 10 is 20. So it's going to be 20 pi centimeters. Your homework is found on page 462. You're going to do all the practice sets, all the 65s, all the 64s, and then 14 more of your choice. Good luck, guys.